Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
This week's game versus the New England Patriots is an interesting game coming at a very interesting time for both teams. For those of you who have not been paying attention to what's been going on with the New England Patriots, well, they have had quite the spurt in their season. They started off a little up and down, but these last few weeks, the New England Patriots have really looked like they have started to put together the building blocks of what's going to be their core going forward, right? That's what it's looked like for them. If we look at the New England Patriots recent games here, they beat the Buffalo Bills. When did they beat Buffalo? October 5th. They beat Buffalo October 5th. They beat the Panthers 42-13. And then they beat the Saints 25-19. They beat the Titans 31-13. They've been on a 4-game winning streak, right? And they started the season about 1-2. Yeah, 1-2 with losses to Pittsburgh and the Las Vegas Raiders. And they seemingly have turned it around with a 4-game win streak that includes a big win on national TV versus the Buffalo Bills. At the same time that the Patriots are going on this win streak, by the way, Drake Maye, the guy they drafted number 2 overall, he was a super young quarterback prospect. I think he was like 21 years old when he got drafted. And he kind of got lost in the shuffle of all the conversations about rookies last year because everybody was really focused on Jaden Daniels, and then Caleb Williams came into that draft class with a lot of hype. So he kind of like got lost in the shuffle a bit. Some people even like were willing to say that things weren't going well with his development. And then this year, these last 4 weeks especially, he's really turned it around. Or I wouldn't even want to say turned it around. He's turned it on is the better description of it, right? Because I don't know if I could sit here and be like, oh, well, he wasn't showing anything, which is turned it around. But he definitely has turned it on. Last 4 weeks of football he's played, he has had almost about 1,000 yards of production and 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's been playing high-level football the last 4 weeks. A lot of people putting him potentially in categories with some elite names in the NFL because of his play and the kind of throws he's been capable of making. So the New England Patriots are coming into this game with a young quarterback in his second year who's hot, as hot as he's ever played, really putting it together. And they're playing a Browns defense that, when they are on, is the best defense in the NFL. They have had a couple of hiccups this year versus Pittsburgh in that last quarter versus Minnesota, really just the last drive versus Minnesota. But last week versus the Miami Dolphins, season high in turnovers in a game. I think that's the most turnovers the Browns have had in a single game in like 2 years or something crazy like that. But the Browns defense looks like they're back to being what they are after a little bit of a lull in the early part of the season. So for Drake Maye, who's already played Buffalo, but coming off of games against New Orleans Saints, the Tennessee Titans, and the Carolina Panthers, teams that we expect to be in the top 10 of the draft conversation, maybe minus Carolina since they are 500 right now. But, you know, Buffalo's really the only quality opponent that he has had in that time. And most of those numbers that we brought up have happened in those games where he is not playing Buffalo. So what is Drake Maye going to look like in this test? Like, this is a huge test for Drake Maye going up against Myles Garrett and his Cleveland Browns defense. That's probably going to be the toughest challenge he has gotten so far in his young career, or at least in this young season in his second year. So this game is interesting from that perspective for the New England Patriots. They're looking at this one and they're going to be excited about this one, right? I wouldn't expect the Patriots to come in and overlook you, but they're going to come into this game trying to see just where they are, right? Like, just how good is Drake Maye? Is it just he's not playing the best opponents right now and that's why he looks great? Or is it because he's really that good and he's going to demonstrate that on Sunday? For the Cleveland Browns, this game is interesting for much different reasons, right? The Browns have been in a weird spot all season because of the lack of production on offense and the dominance that this defense is capable of on defense. And it has really been weird to watch, right? Like, and it's been like this for a couple of years where the Browns have a really good defense and an offense that can't do anything. And I don't know why it is more jarring to watch that than like the other way around, which was what happened in like 2022 with the Joe Woods system, where the Browns had like a really solid offense, but just could not stop a nosebleed. I don't know why watching this in reverse is a lot more jarring than that part. But either way, that's kind of the life the Browns have been living. Now, they got a big win. They finally scored over 17 points in a game. The offense put up more than 20 points in a game for the first time in a very long time while Kevin Stefanski is the play call. You can argue a lot of that had to do with assistance from the defense, but that's kind of how we thought this would have to go, right? Like, we always felt like for the Browns to put up a bunch of points, you're going to need assistance from the defense. So I'm not really shocked at that, right? I'm not really asking the Browns to score 30 points outright every game. So Browns scored 31 points, finally get that pressure off their back of, oh, they're this team that has had this stretch of not scoring, which I imagine mounts up in frustration. They get to kind of just take a deep breath and relax a little. And I'm hoping that that allows them to execute a lot smoother than they have, because you can kind of see that pressure mounting up when you watch them and the frustration building up when you watch them on tape. And I don't think it was a good thing for them. So hopefully, you know, just getting this monkey off their back is something that can relax the offense to a point where they can be more productive going forward. But the reality is, with Drake Maye playing the way that Drake Maye is playing, and again, this is going to be his biggest challenge, so maybe this is a low-scoring game after all, but with Drake Maye playing the way that Drake Maye is playing, I anticipate that you're going to have to score points to win this game. And that's where the offense is going to have to start improving drastically over the next few weeks, right? Like, they have to be not just a more efficient offense, not just a more opportunistic offense, but an offense that is capable of, on occasion, creating opportunity, right? The Browns really, like, in order to win this game, I don't think you're going to be able to get away with the super safe game plan that Kevin has wanted to roll out the last couple of weeks. I think you're going to have to take a little bit more risk and run the ball from different formations and throw a little bit more than maybe you want to, right? Because the run game isn't able to create down-to-down consistency like you want to. You might have to spread it out and let Dylan kind of find his way here, right? Whatever's happening in a 2-minute drill where Dylan looks pretty solid, you might want to find a way to replicate that. I don't think it's necessarily the hurry-up offense that's making him better in these situations. I think it's just it's a little looser on a 2-minute drill, right? You're less worried about turning the ball over, and you're more worried about just making plays, playing football. I think it's a mindset thing, in my opinion, right? But when Dylan's in that situation, he's 18 of 25, which is a 72% completion percentage for about 162 yards. He's averaging about 6.5 yards per attempt, which isn't an amazing number, but it's much more efficient than what he has been, which is around like 5 yards per attempt, correct me if I'm wrong there. So they got to figure out a way to loosen Dylan up a little bit, right? Like, I think he's a little bit wound too tight towards not turning the ball over, and it's actually hurting him and limiting the offense more than it has to. He already has enough limitations physically, if we're being honest. He doesn't need to limit himself more than his body already does, if you feel what I'm saying, right? Like, he already isn't going to be able to access a ton of throws because he's not the most talented thrower and he's not the biggest guy in the world. And this goes with any quarterback. You know, you don't want there to be any mental blocks there too because you're just so worried about turning the ball over. Got to trust that he is on a base level concerned about it. That's why you drafted him, right? So whatever is loosening him up in those 2-minute drills, they got to consider figuring out how to make that the case for him all the time because he's a much better, more efficient quarterback when he's in that mode versus when he's not. So they got to figure out that if you're Cleveland, and they're going to have to figure out a way to score points to beat the Patriots this week. Now, there is some good news on the injury front, and I'm going to get to that real quick, but I thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Real quick, just want to let you guys know Sleeper has a new offer here. They're offering a free $20 entry, no deposit required, and also, if you're a first-time user, you also will receive a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Again, $20 free, no deposit required. Plus, first-time users also receive a 100% deposit match up to $100. Join Sleeper. So the first bit of news is that Jack Conklin has cleared concussion protocol, and he will be hopefully active. Well, he's not even on the injury report, so he will be active to play this week, barring anything happening to him in practice. So that's really, really good news. Obviously, Jack Conklin is a piece to this offensive line that they need back badly. I talked about it I'm going to talk about it in my run game breakdown that is coming out tomorrow about how the offensive line is just overly reliant on eligible tackle and 12 personnel, and they just need to be able to whip some ass out of not empty, but out of the gun a little bit more, spread things out. Getting back Jack Conklin, I think, makes that more possible. And again, it keeps Corn Lucas off the field, pushes KT Leviston to eligible tackle. And I think all of those things are better for your run game going forward. So getting him back's good. David Njoku also back at practice, albeit limited. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, a full practice, a second full practice. Clap it up for Mike Hall. So Mike Hall, it looks like, is gonna play this week. I know it sounds insane, but I actually think Mike Hall is gonna play this week. We're gonna see him. Thank goodness. No more complaining about that whole situation. Glad to see that there's progress on that front. So it looks like we'll see Mike Hall this week. He practiced full. Hopefully no setbacks tomorrow. And Jack Conklin back as well. And they're going to need all of these pieces, right? The Browns defense is going to get tested, and the Browns offense is going to have to put up points, right? I don't think this is a game you can win keeping the score down to 17. I don't think this is a game you can win without scoring 20 plus points. And if the Browns are able to win a game like this, right, where they do have to score 20 plus points, and, you know, it's not necessarily a shootout, but there is some back and forth going on between the offenses, that's something that can reflect really well onto Kevin Stefanski, who really needs to have things reflect better upon him, because there's a lot of reasons to want him fired that are offensive related. And until you start to see some of those reasons start changing, then, you know, you're going to have to ponder the question of, like, do you move on from this guy if he cannot fix the offense? So we'll see what happens. But winning a game like that, right? Last week, it's hard to really say that was an offensive explosion. It really wasn't. It was a defensive explosion that aided the offense to points, and the offense did what they were supposed to do. So they weren't shit in that game, but, you know, they just did what they're supposed to do, and that's fine. To win this game versus the Patriots is going to require a bit more of an offensive coming out party. And if they can accomplish that, then I think that is more of a needle mover than last week would be for anybody who's really frustrated with the state of the offense, because ultimately everybody shouldn't be focused on just firing somebody just to fire them. You should be focused on firing somebody because you think it solves a problem. But if that problem is solved, then there's no reason to fire somebody. And if Kevin can get that offense to a place to where they could be reasonably efficient for the talent they have, where they can put up points and be respectable as an offense, then all of a sudden there's really no reason to fire Kevin Stefanski. You've gotten through the rough patch. So this is a game here where if you can win and put up points and score efficiently, that's going to go a long way in figuring out what it is that you want to do going forward at head coach. But that's my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.